How's it going, Eliminators? Today's video is on a Toro 38581 two-stroke single-stage snowblower. This video was filmed in the winter time and I'm just getting around to editing it up now, so let's get right into it. So I have this Toro Power Clear here, and I need to remove this recoil so I can replace the pull cord that's frayed. The problem is they don't weld these recoil bolts, so when you go to remove the nut, the bolt ends up spinning inside. So why can't I just remove the shroud with the recoil bolted to it? Well, they have one bolt on the bottom right, they have two nuts on the top, but they have another bolt that's hidden away, and that's down here. Now you can't get to it easily because of this support here. The bolt is basically wedged in between the engine and the snowblower. So I'll bring you back once I have this all removed, and I'll show you a little modification that will make removing this cover much easier in the future. So another video of my just random stuff that I'm working on here. I'm going to throw this together to make it into, I don't know, I guess a little entertaining video. So you start by taking the chute off, then you got to take that black ring off, then you can take that off. Then you also have to take off this black plastic piece at the back. So then you have access at your shroud. So you would think, oh, well, you just unbolt your recoil from the shroud. No big deal, right? Well, the problem with the design of this one is that they use these little bolts here with nylock nuts. The issue is that they don't weld the bolts to the inside of the shroud. So when you go to remove the nut off of your recoil here, the bolt spins. And you have to remember that the shroud at this point is still on the engine. So what's the big deal? You should just be able to pull the shroud off, right? Well, because the design of this engine has it on like a 45-degree angle, there's two bolts up here that hold the shroud on. There's a bolt over here. Now normally there would be a bolt on the other side as well, but because they've slanted this engine, that other bolt is at the bottom, right in between the engine and this plate here. So you gotta essentially come over to this side of the machine, and then you can loosen off these four bolts. Was able to rock my engine up slightly to remove that bolt. But you want to talk about a nightmare, because all of this was done to replace a frayed, you guys can see it there, that was the old recoil rope, and the whole rope looked like that. So we got a new blue diamond Stens rope on there. It's all wound, tied a little knot onto it just to hold everything together. I've gone in with some white lithium, lubricated all the dogs. This works awesome. So the idea would be, for easier access, put your bolts in, you know, flip this shroud around and weld them. But if you ever strip your bolt, then that's going to be an issue. So here's what I'm going to do, because this is my solution. All you need to do, because this, when it goes on like that, our bolt, right, is down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with a grinder and I'm just going to slot that. Now you'll still be able to tighten that down with a bolt, but the thing is I won't have to loosen the engine because I won't have to remove the bolt. So what I'm doing basically is looking towards the future. If I ever have to do this job again to replace a rope, all I will have to do is remove the two nuts on the top of the shroud, remove the bolt on that side, and then all I will have to do is loosen that bolt. And then I'll be able to slide the shroud off, right? Because I'll have that hole slotted. That's something that the engineers could have thought of, but they didn't. So basically I'm thinking ahead, and I'm thinking, what's the easiest way? I could weld the bolts or do this, do that. Welding the bolts to the inside of here would probably be the best bet, because then you can just go ahead, remove the four nuts from the recoil, and then just pull the recoil off, and you wouldn't even have to worry about taking the shroud here off. I think this would be the easiest way to do it. And then you could still run the bolt at the bottom end, and then I really don't have to weld anything, and it's just a lot easier. So this is it, guys. A little slot on a hole. I'll still be able to put my washer and my bolt in there. Once the bolt is in there, it'll never have to come out again. All you'll have to do is back it off, and then I'll be able to just slide that shroud up and off, and it will just be the easiest thing. And they should have done this from the factory right away, and then I wouldn't have had to do a lot of what I did. Step 47, I'm gonna call it. Air chisel. Coming down here. Bust off a little bit of the aluminum. So right in there you can see there was like a little aluminum lip. Don't worry, I haven't done any damage to this case here, and that was preventing me from getting my bolt in. So coming out it was easy, going back in not so easy, but everything's lined up and I should be able to get my bolt in now. So by busting off that little piece of aluminum, just that small little piece, and it's basically just to make it stronger, right? So you got one on this side, you got one on that side, and you got a third one on there. and that was preventing me from getting my bolt in. So I just knocked that off with that air chisel. Now I can get my bolt started, which means now I can tighten things up. So to do what I'm doing, at least it'll be easier to get to this point. And then if the shroud ever needs to come off again to replace a coil or sheared flywheel key, whatever it may be, I'll be able to get in there nice and easy. All I have to do now is loosen it, and I'll be able to slide that right up. You just got to think about what works and what doesn't. And then down here on the left side of the machine by the bearing, the 4 bolts, I'm tightening those now, and that should take care of the engine. So I got the engine all bolted up, and I've got this bracket here that holds the other side of the engine. I got that all bolted up. I've pulled my recoil just to make sure that it unwinds and rewinds. That makes sure that the shroud and everything's lined up. Now before I pull my recoil through, you can see that I've tied a knot there to hold it for now, because I still have to loop the cord through this plastic piece and then through this little hanger, and then I can tie my handle onto it. Well, this is all chewed to heck from people pulling and trying to start it. So that right there is what I don't like, folks. It's pulling on that corner there while it's trying to. It gets hung up and it gets caught in there. I don't like that. So I'm going to try to find a rubber grommet that I can put in there maybe. And when you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs at once, this is what your workbench looks like. Holy. I just got so many tools. The tap and die set, specialty socket, those are the female torque sockets. Got doing carb cleans and carb swaps. We're getting parts in, belts for other snowblowers that are outside. We're pretty busy. Now I didn't have a rubber grommet, but what we did was we came in here with the Dremel and just tried to smooth out as best we could this hole here, and at least the cable won't snag up on some of those sharp bits anymore. So these little pieces here, that's not even hard, that's real soft now, and I don't think the cable will tear or shred like it was. But basically every time they pulled it before, it was just taking off a little fiber, and over time it got to the point where it was just a big ball of fluff. So I think this should work. But something to consider is I'm going to probably try to find a universal grommet set. So if I can find a big kit of all different size grommets, then I might be interested in something like that, because then I could have just popped a grommet in there and then I wouldn't have even had to go and grind that. So we got this machine all finished up. I don't know if I'm going to cut that end off. I really don't have to. But the recoil's done. That hole's fixed. We got the rope redone. Everything's back together. The chute works. I lubricated some stuff. That's all my customer wanted. I love how the key comes out when it's off, but also when it's on. It's not supposed to do that, so I'm assuming that's why they've got a whole bunch of zip ties there. But this machine is ready to be returned back to my customer. It fires right up, it runs, and everything is operational as it should be. So that's it. Job well done.
So that's it for today's video, guys. Just a little video on a quick modification that I did, and it doesn't really help you to remove that engine cover when you're doing it for the first time, but it will make it easier for you to remove it in the future if you ever have to take the recoil off again to replace a recoil rope or to change a coil or anything else on the engine. So if you guys enjoyed the video, think about leaving me a thumbs up. You can click here to subscribe and click over here to watch one of my previous videos. I upload every single week, so come on back, check the channel out next week for new content, and as always, guys, thanks for watching.